Let us know where you are tuning in at. We are so excited about the topic for today um, because most of us are kind of like spread out, right? We are like all over the world. We have UK, we have the US, we have the Philippines, Ireland, Venezuela. We have so many different New York. And so the chances of meeting someone who is far from you is a possibility. It's a huge possibility here on Salt. And so we do not want to just discount those long distance relationships because today we have planes, we have boats, we have car like we have so many avenues to get to the person if they are the one. And so we just want to discuss the possibilities and what you can do to try to close the gap if you find that your person is in another country. So welcome, be prepared to come up and speak to us, speak to the room, not just in the chat. We really want to hear from you guys, whether you are open to long distance or not, and some tips that you could provide to us if you have had experience with long distance relationships. So, welcome to the room, Mexico, Germany. Thank you for tuning in. Faith, do you want to start us off with prayer?
Taryn, can you lead today?
Yes, I can.
Thank
Lord,
you.
we
Hey,
just
everybody.
thank you for this time of fellowship. We thank you for just what you're doing in the midst of us as we begin to open our minds up to the possibility that our forever person could be in another country or another state. We ask for wisdom on how to build that relationship going forward. So, God, we just give you all the praise, the honor, and the glory. So, in Jesus' name, amen. So, as we get started, let's kind of get some of you guys up here to let us know if you have any experience with long distance relationships. I want to hear some stories before we just hop right into um, what we can do to close the gap. Do we have anyone in here who has experienced long distance relationships? Joshua, you have the floor. What would you like to share with us?
I would say that I don't have too much experience with it, but I am a truck driver. I drive an 18 wheeler and have been doing so for about 5 years. I, in that time, have had one long distance relationship, and uh, I was fairly young, so it was interesting. But I think that it is important to have a dialogue of expectations, you know, um,
Okay.
and accountability. So the expectation would be, say, for me, I would communicate with the young lady of how often would she like to see some guy who's pursuing her,
Okay.
and accountability, because there are a lot of temptations to, you know, you meet if I meet another female, and she's, you know, 3,000 miles away from where the woman who I'm pursuing, there is a temptation of, hey, she'll never find out. So I think that for me, I require myself to have a godly older male who's married to mentor me and hold me accountable. And I require the female to have a godly older female to mentor her and hold her accountable. And that will go all the way through marriage. So that's my take on it. I don't have much experience, but from the little that I do, that's what I have. Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Joshua. So let me ask you, what's the distance, the limit of the distance?
Uh, well, for me, it is hard for me to find a wife in America
Okay.
because I am like really biblical in my role in a marriage, meaning that I am the leader and I'm the head of the home. I'm the head of my wife, uh, and my wife all through the time from the time we meet till um, marriage and all through marriage, she used to look at my leadership and say, "Hey, am I going to follow this?"
Mhm.
Um, in marriage, it's different. She used to submit to me unless I ask her to do something that's a sin. But for me, with my finances, like it would be hard for me to pursue a female in the Philippines because it's like 3,000, $2,000 or $3,000 for me to fly to go see her. So I think it is how often will I be able to see this young lady in order to properly pursue her, and the older people who's mentoring me and mentoring her will actually should be able to help us get an understanding, and the communications has to be very well, very good in that scenario. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And so you're located where?
So out of
Oh, I'm sorry, Joshua. Can you please come back up? Raise your hand again. There we go.
Hi.
Okay,
Um,
sorry about that.
no, it's okay. Um, I'm originally from West Palm Beach, Florida. Most of my family lived there. I did just
Okay.
move to Columbus, Ohio, to pursue my company.
Mhm.
The trucking industry is better in uh, Ohio than it is in Florida. Um, so I did just move. On my profile, I think it says that I'm from Florida, or
Okay.
I live in Florida because I mean that's where I will spend a lot of time because
Okay.
my family lives there. Yes,
Oh, okay. And
but I
so
sorry, go ahead.
no, no worries. I was gonna say stay up here because I want you to elaborate on why you find it difficult, or why do you think it'll be difficult to find someone in America? I know you mentioned your values, your biblical values, but America is like
Mhm.
huge, right? So I don't want to take up the time, but I do want to come back to that question. Um,
Okay.
let's go with Mo. You have the floor.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. I'm great.
Um,
Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yes.
Thank you for giving me this chance to get on here. And I think with me, I had a lot of experience with long distance. I feel like through my 20s, it's just in the long distance. I don't remember being in an actual, like, same place relationship. And it's really frustrating. And it's just even the basic things like just wanting to go to the mall together or just watching a movie together. And let me say the time differences, you're sleeping, I'm awake, the communication. And then that's when I had to notice that I think my love language is more of time, like spending time together. And it would frustrate me because even the conversations get boring with time because you're like, oh, what time is it? Oh, the food, the weather, you know, it was just, you don't feel like you know that person because you don't get to see them. Because I love to see when I'm talking to someone, I look at them, I like look understanding how they express themselves, the facial gestures, the way they carry themselves. So you're deprived of all that in a long distance relationship. And then the travel, it's financially it's draining too. And the uncertainty, like no one wants to move. Who's going to move? It's just too much. So I don't think I want that anymore.
Okay, okay. I understand. It's either a good fit for you or it's not. And so I have done long distance before, and the longest I would say that long distance relationship was 2 years, and most of that was spent on the phone, video calls, because it was in the midst of COVID. So we weren't able to travel back and forth like we would have wanted to. And then when travel opened back up and I was able to travel, there was a situation where the relationship ended. So it can be challenging. Um, we were able to build a friendship as well. So I mean, it's either you like it or you don't like it. So it's okay if it's not a good fit for you. So what would you say, what would advice would you give someone who is interested in a long distance relationship? Mo.
Um, I believe, like I said, I could say it's not what I want, but I don't know what God's plan is for me. I could say, oh, I want someone who lives in LA because I live in LA, and maybe I meet a Jack in, let me say, Texas or something like that. And if it's ordained by God, I believe He'll work it out. But if someone wants to go in there, you have to be committed. Like you have to put in the work. It's work. It's not a smooth sailing experience. You have to put in the work. Then there is a trust issue. You know, you have to trust someone when they tell you, okay, I'm in bed or I'm in this. You don't know who they hang out with, all that thing. Whatever they tell you is just face value. Like you do not know what or how they really live, where they are, or they don't know the same about you, and the temptations too, like you say, like someone else said. Um, because let me say, if I'm a movie person, right? You love watching movies or whatever, and then you're spending that time with other people, you're going to get drawn to those people that you spend time with, whether without noticing. And that could also hinder the relationship. So it's more of knowing what you two people want. And if you're able to go through those hardships, and if it works, it's meant to be. If it doesn't, you move on. I believe everyone has someone out there for them, and we're all good people. Whether it works out, you may just not be the perfect fit for me, but you're a good person. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. Thank you.
Thank you, Mo. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and your likes and dislikes. I thought this was a topic very beneficial because currently I am in a long distance relationship and I have found it to be good and challenging, getting to know someone that, is in another state. But I can say that I am learning a lot about myself. And I say that everything is a lesson. Um, and so in this season, patience is the lesson that God is trying to teach me. The Bible talks about be anxious for nothing, but in prayer and supplication, make your requests known before the Lord. And so I am to travel soon to, to meet this person. It's been I don't tell the duration of it, but we've been talking for a while. How about that? And I find out that you have to communicate. You have to communicate. It is the number one and the only resource that you have in getting to know someone that's not in the same state in you as you. But even if they are in the same state, communication would be definitely key. It's one of those things you can't avoid. And so I began to think about, and I'm gonna let I don't know who else was next, Ariel or Devon, but I believe that it's not my belief. I looked at ways of communication in the olden days, when the men went out to war and the women stayed home. They wrote letters to one another. That's the way they communicated. They sent telegrams, they sent postcards. So communication is not going anywhere, but it is increasing, which gives us an advantage of communicating. Say, you're texting someone and they don't want to FaceTime, and you all are in a long distance friendship relationship. there are multiple ways of communicating. You can email, you can, get on WhatsApp. This app, Table or Salt, even has video chat. So there are no excuses when it comes to communicating. And so we have to, I heard you mention something about trust. We have to allow God to heal us from areas of distrust when you are in a long distance relationship. I have been confronted myself with various thoughts, and I'm like, God, what is that? God wants to refine us. He wants to prune us and teach us, even if it's not a long distance relationship, that thing that is hidden inside of us that we need to develop in our character. So I'm going to be quiet and I'm going to turn the floor over to Ariel. Welcome to the stage, Ariel. Unmute your mic so we can hear your lovely voice.
Can everybody hear me just fine?
Yes, you're good.
Okay. I've been in about two long distance relationships. The first one was when I was fairly younger, so I was like 18. It didn't work out because the person, we didn't share the same relationship with Jesus. And as I started to go closer to Jesus, I started to grow more distant from the person I was with. And the current relationship that I'm in, we share the same everything. But I think ultimately, from the beginning, what really helps a long distance relationship is just full on transparency. A lot of people will try to give you the best version of themselves instead of just being 100% real with you. And I get it. It may not be the prettiest or, the best thing in the world, but I mean, honesty is honestly the best policy. And you can't go wrong with just, here I am. And, either they accept it or they don't. But at the end of the day, it's a choice that you let them make instead of trying to sell yourself to be something that you're not or to be something more than what you are. And also, what I think would make a long distance relationship work is just, you and that person having a plan to close the gap, uh, and how much time would you like to close that gap? A year? How is that? Do you need a year? Is that okay? Maybe 2 years. What goals are you trying to achieve right now before we close the gap? Conversations need to be had, even though some people may feel like it's too early, or you may feel like you're prying, but I mean, this is your future that you're talking about. And if you are serious about the person, you should inquire about these things. um, so yeah, I think transparency and planning for a future, and wanting to close that gap is definitely a way to make a long distance relationship work. And just also understanding that that person had a life before you came into it. That doesn't mean that you're less important, but that also means that you need to respect the fact that maybe their job requires a lot from them, so they won't hear from you or you won't hear from them. But there's also that courtesy to let them know, like, look, I'm going to be busy, so don't think that I'm ghosting you, or that I'm no longer interested. It's just my work demands a lot from me, so I can't call you or I can't text you, but I can just send you a little text here and there, letting you know I'm still with you, I'm still here, still interested, but I am busy. So yeah, that's all.
I think you raised a very good point about the honesty, because some people just want a pen pal, somebody that they can chat with, through online, and they're never planning ahead when they're going to meet the person. And so being honest about what you want, your desires, and where you want to go initially with a long distance relationship helps bring clarity to both parties. Even if you have never, you know, traveled down this road before with a long distance relationship, these are things that have to be talked about. Someone said I think it was Joshua said in the group chat that the group chat meeting and spending time initially is probably one of the most underrated points. People invest months only to meet in person and realize that the person is not exactly who they want to be with. And I can agree to that, but I believe it's like taking a risk. When you buy a new car, you're praying that this car is going to last, and all of a sudden you have an accident, and now the car is like, you know, prayerfully not totaled out, but things happen, and you say, "Oh, I should have never got this car in the first place. It was expensive. Now I'm paying even more money to." So everything is a risk, and so with that, continual prayer is going to be your best friend in navigating any relationship, especially a long distance one. Let's hear from Anthony. Anthony, welcome to the stage.
While we're waiting for Anthony to come in on the mic, after Anthony, let's hear from Devin. He's been waiting for a while. So, Anthony, are you ready? Okay, Devin, you can go ahead while we're waiting for Anthony. Anthony, you may need to unmute your mic and see if that will help. But Devin, you have the floor.
Hi, Taryn. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
And I see. Yeah, if you're dating someone long distance, it's important that you do have communication, and communication is huge. Um, and you just kind of like try to understand each other, get to know each other better. And this is a big thing. Not too many people talk about this. Is like the intimacy part. So whenever people get to know each other better, like the intimacy part, not the sexual intimacy, but the intimacy of like connection and knowing each other, you intimacy actually can kind of mean it to seeing to me and seeing to you. So I think wounds and things of the heart start to come up, like wounds, childhood trauma, struggles, disappointments, just hurt kind of come up, and the person leaks it. But I think if the couple can get like healing or counseling, or if they can walk through whatever they've been through together, they can have a beautiful white wedding. But another thing is just that communication part, and communication is huge. So also when you're dating long distance, you don't have to let everybody know, because there's power of life and death in the tongue. And some people are just negative, or they another thing too, this is something that everybody kind of does, but more so kind of women, and women are gonna have to kind of grow out of this, is like the gossip or the emotionally cheating, or like talking about their partners to their girlfriends, and that shouldn't be like that. I really believe in couples need to confide in each other, and they could like work things out together and stuff, and work on goals. I think being ambitious and goal driven is huge and stuff like that. And also just like communicating your needs or your wants or your desires. And if it's working out, I think a couple can relocate. Nothing's impossible.
Yes, thank you so much for your input, Devin. It the last thing you said, well, if it works out, a couple can relocate. Exactly. That is always an option if it works out. I also want to say something about sharing with their friends. I've noticed men do it too. Women may do it the most, but if you find yourself exposing the person in the sense of if they've shared something private with you, then no, you should not share it with your friends. However, the Bible talks about wise counsel. And so sometimes you have situations where you may need to seek the counsel of someone because maybe it's something you just not sure how to navigate. I don't think it's anything wrong with that as long as you're not uncovering that person. Because sometimes you need a set of eyes on the outside looking in because you like this person, you are infatuated with them, things seems to be going good, but then you see something and you need to determine if this is something that's detrimental to us going forward, or is this something that we can work around. And you may have a friend who is married and may have some insight on that. And so I don't think it's wrong to seek counsel, but I do think that there should be boundaries to that counsel if you're in that relationship, because you don't want to uncover that person, because if you uncover them in the dating phase, then there's a good chance that you're going to continue to uncover them in the marriage phase as well. So thank you for the input again, Devin, and then Anthony. Are you ready now, or do you need a
Y-
second?
Yes, no, I've never done anything like this before. I've never even done Zoom or anything, and I just couldn't figure out how to unmute my mic.
Welcome to the platform.
Hi, thank you so much. Sorry about that before. But yes, I was in a I guess kind of still. I'm in a long distance relationship. It's been over 2.5 years, from the U.S. to the Philippines, and the way, like what Mo was saying earlier, that there's not enough of the physical, those kind of things that you need in a relationship. I mean, we got around that, of course, by video chat. We would video chat all day and all night for hours every single day for years, and the trust was definitely there, although that took almost a year to get there, because there's still, when it first starts out, I could see on her end that she's not 100% sure that it's anything real. Who knows where it's going? There's still other guys that want to talk to me and all this kind of stuff. And so all that was an issue for probably the first year or so. Um, Once that got out of the way and it was just complete trust, then at that point, we're looking to move it forward into another, into the next step of an actual relationship. And yeah, and we would do things like watch movies together and everything like that too. We'd be on video chat. We'd set up the movie on our Netflix, and I would time it out so that they're right on cue, so that the sound is synced up and everything like that. Um, but and then I finally said I have to, because she's still in the back of her mind. She's like, "But how real is this?" And I had to make it as real as I could. And when I could, I finally bought the ticket to go to the Philippines. This past May, I went over there. I ended up spending 9 weeks with her and her family. Um, and it was fantastic. It was like a dream come true. Now, the only thing is, I was staying with her family, which I hadn't planned on. I was planning on, renting a condo or something like that for the time. And, but her family offered to have me there at their house, um, which was such a great thing, but it was a double-edged sword, because even in the course of our long distance relationship, I mean, arguments happen and things like that. And it's pretty easy when you're just on texting or snapping or FaceTime and stuff like that, because you could just hang up and say, I'm going to have some time alone and I'll talk to you whenever I'm not upset or whatever like that. And it would always work out just fine. But in person, it's not so easy. You can't just mute the mic, or you can't just shut off the account for a few days or anything like that. We're there 24/7 together, for that time. And so, at one point we did end up getting into an argument in front of her family. And from that point on, it's like my image was completely tarnished. And it had a lot to do with the fact that, even though I'm a guest, and I completely appreciate them, and I love them, and they love me too. That we've known each other throughout these years as well. We've talked on FaceTime. Her mom was my biggest fan and supporter for all that time. But it's also hard. I'm an adult, and it's hard to be under someone else's thumb when it's like, I should really not be here right now. Like, I should be in a hotel, let you guys have some time alone and stuff like that. And so after that, there was this lingering thought in the back of her head that, okay, well, if my family, now that they've seen us argue, then maybe they don't approve of him anymore, which they never really told her that, but it's still in the back of her mind. And so we continued to have a wonderful vacation for another, 5 weeks after that. Everything was wonderful. But at the airport, she kind of tells me, but because of what happened, I don't think that we should keep this going on. I don't know if they're going to approve of us getting married or anything like that. And so when I got back to the States, we've still been talking. We still video chat, but it's not as frequently as it was. It's not every day. And she goes back and forth between these things of that she wants me to try to get her a fiance visa. And then the next day it's like, oh, you should just forget about me. You should go meet someone else, something like that. And I don't really know what to do about it. That's why, she tells me these things and I take her at her word. So when she tells me, no, we should break up and I don't think we're going to be together, I don't want to text you anymore. Well, then when that happens, well, then that's why I signed up on dating apps, and just to not feel lonely and to not feel helpless. But then she'll text me again, even today, and she'll, it's very hard. I can't tell what side of the road she's on, and so I don't want to give up all hope, because it's like she doesn't want to let that hope die either. And um, and then there's the issue of what do we do? I mean, the plan was always that the next step is for her to come over here, but the visa from the Philippines to the U.S. is a very complicated issue, and the different either visitor visa, work visa, or fiance visa, and all that's such a complicated thing that it just seems so out of the realm of reaching. Um, and I don't know if anyone else has this kind of experience, but I guess I just the thing is, it's hard to move on when she tells me I need to move on, when at the same time I get the impression that she doesn't really want me to. Maybe she doesn't want to either, and I'm not willing to just let it go. I want to fight for it because I love her.
Wow, Anthony. First of all, I commend you for your transparency, your openness, and just sharing with everyone your process, because it is definitely, I'm over here like, wow, like, oh my God, I'm having moments over here myself thinking about the things that you're sharing. And I just want to encourage you that you have done, to my knowledge, the right things, going to see her, spending time with her. And if a person can make a single judgment off of one argument, and they feel like it can't be resolved or there's no hope in the future for you all, I don't think that's a potential wife, because relationships, you're going to have disagreements, you're going to have fallouts, but unconditional love, unwavering love will outweigh any situation that you all may have. And so I would say continue to pray, guard your heart with all diligence, and allow God to show you what to do in this process. Because I don't think that she's ready. I don't think she's ready. Anybody else have anything to share, Taryn, before we or somebody can comment on that?
One thing I will say is that a person that flips is flipping and flopping back and forth. One minute, they're into you, and the next minute is like, no, you shouldn't be together. They're playing. They are playing, and I agree with Faith that I don't see her as being ready. Um, and then you know those visas, right? To you put so much on the line to bring them here, and the fact that she's inconsistent the way that she is, that's not a risk that I would advise anyone to do when a person is showing you inconsistency like that. Because when you bring them here or to I know each country is different, you're guaranteeing, you're saying your government that I will be for this person for the duration of the time that you're saying I'm liable for. So I in the US is 10 years. So you're responsible for their medical, their housing, their food, their clothes, anything that they need. You're telling the government that you are financially stable and responsible enough to cover that. And if that person decides that they want to walk away from you, or you decide you can't get out of that to that person financially. And so they can go and get alimony. And so now you're stuck with who may have really only wanted, to use you to get here with that to get the visa. And so that's a possibility. I'm not saying that that's her, but that's a possibility. And so when you to make a decision about, this person, you know for sure that this person is feels the same way about you that you feel about them. And the fact that she's inconsistent the way that is, I would I would I would really seek the Lord about your next move and what you should do, because it sounds like there's like an emotional tie there, and you're all in but she's not, and so you're kind of following her lead, which creates this cycle of back and forth, which is not healthy emotionally or mentally. And so I would say seek the Lord on what to do next regarding the relationship, and just give it to him and allow the Lord to direct your paths. The word says that in all of our ways acknowledge him and he will direct our path. So I would do that. I would give it to the Lord and allow him to direct you on what to do next. Because if she's doing this now, it doesn't change overnight. If she comes here, she's going to do that here.
I completely agree, and thank you so much. I value your input, both of you. And yeah, that's what I have to do. I feel like I'm so already invested. I can't walk away, but at the same time, I need to, like you said, to guard my heart, because at this point now I'm seeing that there's a potential for a loss, big time. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. We're going to go to Luke and then Favor. Luke, you have the floor.
Aaron, thanks for this opportunity. Do you know what? I don't know what happened, but freakily, my hand went up and I didn't even put my hand up. But still, I'll be a good sport and I'll speak still. Um, so, my experience is that I've had two long distance relationships. So, one was for under a year. That was with a lady who was in London, and it was quite a journey up to there. Um, but it didn't work, that one, because it was literally me having to make the effort all the time to travel up there, and it actually wasn't that much. um yeah. So it's kind of all my thing and me traveling up there. So that was under a year, and then the second one was under 2 years. So that was my longest relationship. That was like the far side of like Sussex, and that was like half of that sort of seemed like during COVID. So that was quite a test, really, and it just sort of didn't work out. But when I look back at those longest relationships I had, I've moved on well from them, and they were great, great ladies, both Christians. And when I stayed with them as well, they lived with their parents, so I sort of stayed in a separate bed and that sort of thing. So that was that. So that was my experience of long distance relationships. So I'm kind of like not close to it, but I think ideally I'd like to find somebody more closer. Um, and I probably couldn't find somebody in another country, but that's just me personally. And yeah, I think that's it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Favor
Thank you.
and then Trudy. Thank you, Luke.
Hello?
Uh, Hi, Trudy. Uh,
Hello.
Go ahead, Trudy, and then we'll go to Favor. Favor, have your mic ready after Miss Trudy, okay? Thank you.
Okay. I was in the last relationship I was in was a long distance relationship, where we were actually moving towards marriage, and then, um, while we were starting to make plans for, the wedding and everything, we broke up. And it was a good experience to go through that for a lot of different reasons that I'm not going to go in. But I mean, you touched on a really important point about, you know, what does it take to be in a long distance relationship? Because I kind of winged it and found out as I went along. And, like, I'm in Canada, he was in the United States. And, you know, it's about, the responsibility. What is the responsibility going to be, once I sponsor this person to come into Canada, right? And can I financially sponsor or support that person for the duration, of that, the time period that's allotted by the Canadian government? And I think it's wise that, when people say, oh, well, I want to just look into a long distance relationship and get into a relationship with somebody, who's from another country. Well, you kind of have to weigh the pros and cons, and you have to, do your research, find out what it's going to take before you can say, hey, is this something that I really can commit to or not? Because if find someone out there, like, from the Philippines or wherever, and you decide, okay, I'm going to date this person, and you start building up that relationship towards marriage, right? And then you kind of find out after the fact, this is not really something that I signed up for. I was not expecting that, right? I don't think I can do this. Not only have you invested your heart into it, but the other person has invested their heart into it just as much as you've invested your heart into it as well. And so now you're in a situation where it's like, Anthony, you're kind of in that scenario where, okay, what do I do here? Right. And I mean, I know that she's kind of flip flopping like a fish, but you have to make sure that ahead of time if that's something that you can commit to or not before you commit yourself, because you don't want to commit yourself to something that's going to be heartbreak later on. And I'm not saying that you're going to know what's going to happen later on. You really don't. But it's just, I think God gives us the wisdom that we look into those things, and understand what's required of us before we actually commit to it. So that was the hardest thing that I learned in my scenario. Um, am I open to a long distance relationship now? Knowing what I know now, I think honestly I've thought through it, and I think it probably would be more, move to really stay local for myself. And that's just because, my financial situation, I'm at a good place right now for myself. And it would be really, really difficult for me to turn around and say, okay, I'm just going to up and move to another country where they're not going to have benefits and services like I do have up here. So that's all I wanted to say about that.
Thank you, Trudy, for providing us with your input. Every joint supply, right? Everybody has something that they can add to the conversation. So thank you so much. Um, I had a question for Joshua, so I'll go ahead. I think I asked it already, but I'll give you the opportunity to provide your answer to the question, and then we'll go to Matthew and then Anthony. We are winding down, so unfortunately, what that means is we're going to have to cap your responses to a time. Oh, well, Joshua's gone. So, Matthew, you have the floor.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hi, great. How are
Hi,
you?
welcome, Anthony.
Uh,
Anthony, what, I'm sorry. Welcome, Matthew.
Matthew.
Before,
how you doing? All
before
right.
you, I'm sorry. I'm dating an Anthony, so all these Anthony's been up here today, and it's been amazing. So before you begin to speak, if you are in the audience, guys and gals, you can simply click on someone's link, send them a message. This is your opportunity to connect with a variety of women or men. We want to keep it holy, of course, but thank you again for joining the room. Matthew, you have the floor.
Okay, I just want to get a couple of things off my chest first. So, Anthony, the lad that was just on talking, like, you sound like a sweetheart, brother. You need to cut that out and move on with your life, man. It just sounds like it's gone on for way too long. You sound like a really nice guy. You're going to find a girl that's local to you, or at least closer than the Philippines. Like, you just need to cut that out and get on. I can't remember who. I think it was Devon that was talking about being worried about a girl having fellowship in other Christian friends. Like, I don't really get his point of view of where that was coming from. I'm sure it comes from a different place than what I guess we're all hearing when we hear that. But it, he just needs to reevaluate in the way that he's saying what it is that he means, because it's coming across in like a really, I don't know, an insecure way. I can't believe that he means what everyone else has heard him meaning. Do you know what I mean? And then I think it was the first guy that came on. I'm not sure what his name was, but he was talking about temptation being more of an issue in a long distance relationship. Well, I mean, I think if temptation's going to be an issue whether she's 5 miles away or 500 miles away. Like, you need to deal with that part of yourself as a man first before you even think about getting into a relationship and whether you're actually able to be a husband. Like, you've got to deal with the problem of lust first before you even go out onto the dating market. So I don't think it should really make a difference whether you're 5 miles away or 500 miles away in terms of like how much temptation you got. If someone really is going to cheat, they're going to cheat regardless, aren't they? It doesn't matter if they're a long distance away. So yeah, I guess that's my agony aunt session over. But for me, I never actually imagined an idea of having a long distance relationship. It was only when I came onto Salt and I kind of realized just how far away other Christians are from me. I'm down in the southwest in Devon. I know the other Anthony that's joined. I looked on his profile and he's from Devon as well. So I guess me and him are going to have a fight over any local Devon girls that pop up on the chat here. But I never imagined that I would be looking to have any kind of a long distance relationship because of the nature of Salt. Everyone seems to be like 2 to 4 hours away from where we live. We're down in right down in the southwest of the UK. It's kind of forced me into that frame of mind. I've had some good conversations with girls and I've met a few girls. I think what I've learned, I'm not massively experienced in it, but I think what I've learned pretty quickly is meet them quickly. Like, if you get on FaceTime, if you've got a bit of a chemistry there and you think there's something there, meet them quickly. Don't dump hours into getting to know somebody to meet them and find out that actual real click and that passion isn't there in person. I think it's really important to just, once you know, if you know, when you're talking to someone and if you're vibing, if you're clicking with them, like, you know what's going on. And if you're not getting that back, and or if you've got that, then just meet them quickly, go out of your way, meet them, and then from there you can like actually build on something. But going weeks or months before you actually meet somebody is just madness to me, because it doesn't, most dates that you go on don't end up in you getting married. Do you know what I mean? So like, the chances of that person being the right person for you are actually quite slim. So you got to meet them first, at least figure out whether that raw chemistry is there. And if it's there, then great, carry on and see what you can do. I guess I'm asking a lot of anybody that I meet. So I've got a little girl, I've got a daughter who's 3. She's with me 50-50. It just by nature means that I can't move very far. So anybody that I meet on Salt, I'm kind of already asking them to sacrifice a lot. It's just in talking to me, and that, like, one day they will have to move here if it's going to work. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't go anywhere. They are going to have to move to me. So I guess that's kind of a sacrifice that you're asking from the very beginning, which makes it, again, more difficult. But in general, the only advice that I've got is just meet somebody quickly. Don't dump time and hours into somebody that you might have a great friendship with, but if you haven't got a great relationship with, or haven't got that chemistry or passion when you actually meet them, what's the point,
Wow,
Matthew,
Matthew, you just came up here like you get some wisdom, you get some wisdom, you get like
where can we send the
he
offering
handing
to?
out nuggets.
Where can we send an offering to? Preacher, Pastor Matthew.
Wait, and he has a voice that I could just listen to. Like, you should do audiobooks like that. Your voice.
Yeah, I'll start an ASMR channel or something. Yeah.
Awesome. I just want to touch on that. To agree to meet sooner than later, because this will definitely define where the relationship or friendship is going. And my whole thought process behind it is, once you meet them, you'll know if you like them in person or not, and if the communication will continue after you have met that person. So thank you so much, Matthew. Terry, I believe you wanted to ask Joshua a question.
Yeah, I was just gonna have him elaborate on his difficulty of meeting people in America. But Joshua, meet me down in the messages, because we still have Dan and Anthony and Zoe, and we are literally down to 6 minutes. So you can respond in the chat. My question was in relation to your comment about the difficulties of finding the godly woman that you're seeking in America. And so I just wanted to know, like, why was that challenging? Uh, then we'll have Anthony, you have the floor, Dan, and then Zoe. Please keep your comments to 1 minute or so because
30
we don't
seconds.
want to go over.
Okay, cool. Right. So I got three things to say to three people. First of all, to Anthony, dude, I've been where you are. I was engaged to a girl from Brazil for like 2 years, and she was like really, really flaky from like the first 5 or 6 months. And I pushed through and I pushed through and I pushed through because I basically invested time, money, emotions, and everything. And finally got to the point where I had to um, end it because it was just taking such a toll on my my spiritual walk, my mental health, and everything. So I would just say, brother, the fact that you're on a dating site now, trying to sort of recuperate somehow, I would just say, dude, and I would say what Matthew says in a bit more of a sort of experienced way from someone who's been there. I think the best thing for you to do, brother, is just call it quits on that. Second of all, Matthew, dude, you got to give me a message. I've sent you a an intro. And then third of all, Joshua, my man, dude. Right, first of all, I don't want to be controversial, but I agree with everything that you said. And I just want to give you a quick tip. There is a reformed dating website called Sovereign Grace Singles, where the reason why I'm not on there is because I can't travel to America. But there's a lot of reformed women on that site, and in fact, they're all there. So just something that I think you might want to have a quick look at. I mean, like, yeah, so loads there. But that's what I wanted to say. Sadly, I don't have much time. I wanted to 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 go into a little bit more as to what my relationship and in engagement was like being engaged to a woman from Brazil for that amount of time. On the basis, first of all, that I wasn't dating her. I'm a very strict believer in courting, so the purpose was for marriage. And she went from saying yes, we should get married, no, we shouldn't get married, yes, we should get married, no, we shouldn't get married, and I'm also divorced as well, so I got two kids, so she was always very suspicious about how that would essentially work. But yeah, I'm not going to go into too much about that because you got Zoe and Dan, but I hope that was helpful.
Thank you for sharing that, Anthony. Yeah. What came to mind when you just said that last part? Deal with your trust issues. Ask God to heal you from the spirit of rejection, from the spirit of abandonment. I know we can't be so vulnerable that we miss red flags and things of that nature, but we also have to ask God to heighten our discernment. And if you were open and honest about, you know, your ex-wife and your children, then in time she would have seen, there is nothing there. And so, especially, if you're talking about marriage and moving forward. So thank you,
And
Anthony,
that's
for
the
sharing
reason
that.
why I pushed
Hmm.
in for 2 years to see if that would essentially come about, but it didn't. And finally got to the point where I was like, right, this
Oh,
needs to finish. But yeah. Anyway, thanks very much. I'll leave you guys to it.
thank you, Anthony. All right, Dan, you have the floor. You have 30
How's it
seconds.
going? You guys all right?
Yes, we are.
Nice, nice. So a couple of things. So I was working over in Germany a few years ago, 4 years ago, and I met this awesome lady. I won't mention her name. And she was really into musical theatre, so we literally used to watch stuff on YouTube. We'd literally press play at the same time, and it was like we're watching it together. It was as close as we could get because it was COVID, lockdown and everything. And then, anyway, so I came to the end of the contract, and we met, and it was an absolute nightmare. We could not have lived together. So I totally echo what someone else was saying about try and meet up as soon as possible. And then the next person I met was also a long distance one. We ended up getting married, but that's been very difficult because she wasn't honest about all of her struggles and all of her scars. So she kind of probably needed more time apart for her to get healed and me to get healed. Somebody was saying on here that like when you do maths, half times half is a quarter. So like if you're not whole, then things don't work out too well with relationships. So get yourself healed up before you start dating. And yeah, meet as soon as possible is a good idea. Don't push it because they might need a bit of time. And also the guy who was talking about Devon, there's an awesome lady in Devon that I know is single. I'll not give you a name, but there is girls out there. And when we met, basically God said to her, don't move my girls, talking about her daughters. So basically she was stuck in Devon and I was basically up north in England. So yeah, so there's people out there. You only need one person. That's enough for you. Anyway, take care. Cheers.
Thank you, Dan. Zoe, go ahead. You have 30 seconds. Share your thought.
Hi, Faith. I don't know if maybe I will share just because we'll perhaps get cut off. Yeah, just with 30 seconds. I don't think I can put it in 30 seconds. Not that it's like long, but maybe I'll like part 2 because hopefully part 2 is coming. Is that right? Maybe Karen?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, but thank you very much. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Thank you.
You think you could sum it up in about a minute?
Okay, shall I go? What was I going to say? I think I wouldn't, in terms of long distance, maybe I think there's benefits. Well, I see benefits from my point of view in terms of like trying to just abstain from having sex before getting married, and also still like kind of doing life but a bit separately, and like being like really intentional with like communication. And
we love talking to you all. We love appreciate each and every one of you all. Of us in the blood, carry us through our week, our day, our families, help us to make the right decisions so we can be divinely aligned with. In Jesus' name, amen.